Hi, this is Mark from allaboutthehouse.com, and in this video I want to talk a little bit about some of the design steps that I take when I'm framing out or trimming out a room like the one that you see that's essentially under construction right now here. So let's say you have an entranceway, a stairway, a dining room like this, and you want to come up with a trim work design. You want to basically give it a lot more aesthetic pop, if you will. The first thing that's imperative in any type of an architectural project like this is to begin with the vision. Now, what that means for me is, I mean literally, I need to know, I need to have a picture, I need to have photographs of what I have in mind. So there's this sort of like big research phase. Now, I use this particular trim book, and I have a few. I go into people's houses, and if it's okay, I take pictures. But this is the image that I actually sort of locked onto for this room. And you can see there is sort of like a panel, if you will, on the wall here, where you can see these wall frames, shadow boxes, if you will. And, you know, there's a nice sort of like faux finish inside, or possibly wallpaper. And you can see a whole bunch of different pieces of trim, right? There's chair rail, there's crown moldings, base moldings, of course, and the frames themselves. So now, this I decided would be what I was going for. There's no way, if you find a photograph, it's going to map perfectly to any room or area that you want to trim out. There's always going to be variability. But you get the basic look and feel, and you sort of begin with that end vision in mind. Now, if we go back to here, let's talk about what's going on so far and how it's laid out. All right, so you can see there's one of those panels. Actually, you can see two of those panels on the walls in construction. But let's start up at the tippy top, right? So there's the ceiling. There's the crown molding with the corner box there. And then you can see I also have taken this archway, if you will, and done some fluted casings with rosettes. That wasn't part of the design that you saw in the original picture, but I liked it, and I had a different geometry to this room. There's the chair rail. Notice also I have this soffit here up at the top. That was a bit of a problem at the beginning, and I was trying to figure out what the heck to do with that. So what I opted for was to take a little piece of trim at the bottom of that and continue it around the whole room. Sorry for the bright lights there. And basically give continuity. Here again above this window, very different geometry from the picture that you saw in the book, but I added these two rectangular shadow boxes, and I think that looks pretty cool. So you're going to start with an envision, and you gotta get some books like these with the glossy photos or magazines or what have you. There just can't be any ambiguity in your mind, because if you start a project like this without a pretty clear view as to where you want to take it, you can get into trouble pretty quickly. So once you know what to do, how do you decide what to do first, second, third? Alright, this is where I'm showing how anal retentive I can be. I actually have somewhat of a project plan here. You know, I do these things on the weekends. So a project like you're seeing here could go on for literally months. My wife isn't thrilled when it goes on for months because the whole house is trashed, but that's the reality. So I actually lay out what I'm going to do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, sort of the forest through the trees. The first thing I had to do here was the ceiling. There was some damage to the ceiling. And then I moved to the crown moldings and the fluted casings, kind of framing out the room. Then I actually did the base moldings, really framing out the room. And one thing you always have to anticipate, if you've never done work like this before, houses aren't generally perfectly level in any way, shape, or form. So by framing out the room, you're creating level and perfectly horizontally level and perfectly vertically true outlines that you're going to basically frame everything within. So the carpeting at the bottom will absorb some of the issues with the base molding. Up at the top, you're going to have to play some games. In fact, look right here very carefully. Let's see if I can zoom in here. If you look at that really carefully, I will tell you the top of that wall frame is level. And you can see the white of the bottom, the white of the ceiling, that's the bottom part of the soffit, it's higher on the left than it is on the right. That's because my house is crooked. That's not cool, but it's just a reality that has to be dealt with. So you lay out a sequencing, and again, I started with the ceiling. I then moved to the crown moldings and the headers and the casings and the rosettes. Now I'm working on the wall frames. Then I'll do the painting and the faux finish within those wall frames. And then I'm going to have to either replace this carpet or possibly go with a hardwood in here. I'm not sure which. Hardwood's a lot more expensive, so I might go with carpet. The third thing I want to point out, and that'll be that for this little video, is the visualization. And that's sort of a theme on our website here as well, the visualization. I don't know how well this is going to show up in the video, but let's start with reality first. So here's a wall that has a lot of work already done to it. And you can see it. Oh, and it looks good. But you see there's nothing on the bottom there other than outlined boxes. You have to lay out every one of these wall frames, every one of these shadow boxes, so that not only when it comes to the construction, which is sort of the fun part, but not only when it comes to when you get to the construction, you don't want to be thinking about the design. So you lay it out and you make it unambiguously clear that this panel is going to look precisely as such. I mean, not only is this taking the thinking out of the construction when you get to it, but it's allowing you to see, well, that looks pretty cool, or that doesn't look pretty cool. And in fact, those two frames that I showed above this window before, that was just an idea that I had, and until I actually drew it up there, I wasn't really too thrilled with it. And then when I drew it, I was like, oh no, that's pretty cool. And then if you go below the window, you can see I just have one large frame there. Now why don't I have two? Well, I don't have two just because of the layout. If I had two, it would have been an issue with this outlet here. So I basically went with one and sort of simplified my life a little bit. Plus, there's going to be curtains in front of that. So you want to have everything visualized as best possible. And you can see right here, I've got another wall frame sort of drawn onto the wall. I can see what it's kind of going to look like even before it goes up. So, in a nutshell, you want to start with an architectural vision. It could take a long time for you to come to like a definitive, this is what I'm going to go for. Like I said, for me, I have to have something glossy. I have to have something in real life. One or the other. Glossy books, magazines, real life, a friend's house. Number two, you lay out the sequencing of all of the steps that you're going to have to take. You know, hopefully, not like me, this isn't going to take you months. You're going to knock this out in 3 or 4 weekends, or 2 weekends. That would be great. And number three, you want to lay everything out on your walls. And again, I've said this in one of my articles before, I like drawing on the walls. It's kind of cool. But you lay it out on your walls for practical reasons. There's no ambiguity thereafter. Alright, so thanks for watching. Again, this is Mark from allaboutthehouse.com.